Chapter 393, The Worm of Time. After a brief moment of blankness, Audrey quickly understood what the sun was saying. He was saying that Mr. Fool had sent his angel to purify Ammon's avatar. Angel. Mr. Fool sent an angel. Mr. Fool really has an angel as an attendant. Every angel has at least the power of a sequence too. Although that's expected, and I've already expected it, it's still amazing because it has finally been verified. And only deities can control angels. Audrey's eyes shone with excitement. She couldn't help but wonder what Mr. Fool's angel looked like. I wonder if I'll be lucky enough to see that. She looked towards the end of the long bronze table with admiration and zeal. At the same time, her spiritual perception told her that Mr. World, who was always gloomy, had also sat up straight in shock, which pleased her inexplicably. Fours recalled what had happened to her previously. She had only asked Mr. Fool to interfere with any divinations, and she ended up seeing a 12-winged archangel descend, enveloping her spirit body with its wings. It really was an angel, black wings, an archangel with 12 pairs of wings, and this really is just a routine procedure for Mr. Fool. He would send an angel to help members of the gathering get out of trouble. Forrest suddenly didn't dare to look up at the gentleman, who was sitting leisurely at the end of the long bronze table. Although she was still only sequence 9, and she hadn't received a complete education in the field of mysticism, she had been involved with different Beyonder circles for 3 years. She would have learned of certain things even if she didn't deliberately find out about them. In the midst of all of this, there was a very important clause: do not look directly at God. In the past, this sentence didn't leave much of an impression on Fours, but now she suddenly felt that it was the truth derived from countless bloody lessons. Angel, Mr. Fool really does have an angel by his side. The hanged man felt a wave of fear and baffling excitement hit him, causing his body to tremble slightly. Previously, when he told us his honorific name and responded to prayers and rituals, this had indirectly expressed the notion that Mr. Fool was equivalent to a god. However, direct evidence was still lacking. But now, an angel has appeared. The existence of that alone is enough to explain many things. Amongst them, the most important thing is that angels represent the most direct form of deterrence. Mr. Fool is not without influence in the real world. Even if he doesn't go through his blessed, he can still project his majesty onto a certain region. Alger immediately thought of many things. He broke into a cold sweat for his shallow actions in the past while feeling filled with hope for the future. Immediately following that, he started to think about the details of what the sun had said. Mr. Fool didn't let the angel descend directly. Instead, he taught the sun a ritual. Through that ritual, he sent the angel to purify Ammon's avatar. That's quite a roundabout way of doing things. Does this mean that in order to influence the real world, Mr. Fool must break through many obstacles? This is consistent with my earlier judgment that he is in a sealed and confined state. Or perhaps there's something special about the forsaken land of God. The reason why Mr. Fool didn't act like this before was because he has escaped a little. He is gradually freeing himself. Sitting at Mr. Fool's seat, Klein slowly looked around. He was obviously aware of Miss Justice's reverence and zeal, as well as the fear and excitement of the hanged man. Weren't you always treating me like a god in the past? Why are you acting like this after hearing about the angel? It seems like indirect evidence ultimately cannot be compared to the shock and awe delivered by direct evidence. If a new member were to question me in the future, I would make preparations in advance for the world to step forward and say something. Then, I would casually point my finger and kill him as an example to others. Once things calmed down, I would make anew the world. Klein's thoughts gradually wandered. Derek didn't quite understand the reactions of Mr. Hanged Man and Miss Justice. From his point of view, wasn't it normal that an angel served a god or a mighty existence? After pondering for a few seconds, he said, "After Ammon's avatar was purified, I coughed out a worm that was exactly identical to the one in the dungeon. Do you know what it is?" With the help of Klein's help, the sun successfully conjured a projection of a translucent worm with 12 transparent rings. Audrey and Fours looked over curiously. At the same time, they shook their heads, indicating that they had never seen or heard of this kind of worm. 12 rings. In the Book of Secrets, all similar symbols have something to do with time. The Ammon family was descended from an ancient sun god, and in ancient times, people believed that the sun and time were related. This can barely be considered an explanation and can be verified from two angles. However, why is it that the current eternal blazing sun is the inextinguishable light, embodiment of order, god of deeds, and guardian of businesses? But he doesn't seem to be involved in the domain that deals with time. In order to maintain his image as the fool, Klein was in no hurry to answer. He smiled, his gaze warm. Alger thought for a moment before saying, "It should be the vessel that Ammon created for his avatar." In legends, there is a type of worm that looks similar, appearance-wise. They have 12 transparent rings and are called worms of time. However, no one has ever seen them before. Many people suspect that it's actually the name of a sequence potion. Worm of time? So it's very close to my guess. Although this is just a legend spread among Beyonders at the middle echelons of particular churches and above, the information itself is of great value. Is Mr. Hanged Man saying this out loud to let others know this because he has been rewarded, having learned a lot of important information from the sun? Klein felt wistful and amused at the same time. Worm of time, the vessel that Ammon created for his avatar. Derek whispered to himself, as though he had resolved many of his doubts. He curiously asked, "What can it be used for? I mean, when it's dead?" "I don't know." Faced with the sun's trust and respectful gaze, Alger suddenly felt a little ashamed. At that moment, the fool, who was sitting at the very end of the long bronze table, spoke calmly. The main material of certain rituals. This was what Klein had surmised from the contents of the Book of Secrets. However, he wasn't worried that he would say anything wrong, because it was almost impossible to prove it. Failing to find the ritual that requires a worm of time just serves to prove that you're not knowledgeable enough. Klein casually added inwardly. Certain rituals. Audrey and the others instantly let their imaginations run wild. "Thank you, the great Mr. Fool." Derek got up halfway and bowed. Following that, the topic steered towards the matter that threatened the existence of the City of Silver. The exploratory team is back. I'm referring to the team led by Shepherd Elder Lovia. They completed the exploration of the fallen creator's half-destroyed temple and have returned to the City of Silver. And I discovered that a few of the team members that I know have undergone a certain degree of change. They've been corrupted by the true creator. Alger didn't hesitate to point that out with a tone of certainty. The true creator. Audrey couldn't help but look at the end of the bronze table. She remembered very clearly that the true creator had once had its descent foiled by Mr. Fool's blessed. She had even guessed that the leader of their tarot club was going to be the nemesis of evil gods. "Really?" Derek returned, refusing to believe it. The Hanged Man calmly said, "Describe their changes in detail." "I still feel like he's the same person, but he's very different from before. His original optimism has now turned heavy. There's only a polite smile left from his former bright smile." Derek shared everything abnormal that he had discovered, including the sudden improvement in Shepherd Elder Lovia's state. Alger said in deliberation, "The situation might be worse than you think. Corruption could be the best possibility. Now, if they truly believe from the bottom of their hearts in the true, fallen creator, that would be trouble, and they would be irredeemable. Regardless, their characters, thoughts, and viewpoints would all be warped, turning into hidden lunatics. You can take action from this angle, letting other members of the 6-member council notice that something is amiss. I've already reported the matter, but the chief doesn't seem to trust me too much," Derek said in a slightly aggrieved and heavy manner. Fours couldn't help but sigh. "That's because your chief is suspecting that you're possessed by Ammon and planning something nefarious against the City of Silver. Then, what should I do? Even if I tell them of the existence of the fallen creator, they wouldn't believe me, am I right?" Derek asked anxiously. The Hanged Man pondered for 2 seconds before saying, "In truth, your chief should have begun paying attention to the shepherd and the exploratory team members. For your City of Silver to survive to this day, the upper echelons will definitely have the most basic level of vigilance and not neglect any possible threats. The only problem is that the importance they place on this matter is definitely insufficient. At the very least, It's not as important as their attention on you and Ammon. Without waiting for the son to speak, he added after some deliberation, "Perhaps you can use this incident to wipe away the suspicion on you. Find an opportunity to make a particular exploratory team member to show the most thorough extent of an abnormality and enter into a conflict with him. That way, the other members of the six-member council will notice that something isn't right and raise the priority on this matter. At the same time, hand over the suspected worm of time and say that you suddenly felt your mind be adrift while the conflict was happening and that you had no idea what happened. You only vaguely heard someone shouting, 'True Creator,' before you woke up. And by then, you had already coughed out that worm. When an evil god is involved, there are many means and abilities that one wouldn't dare use without thought. Your chief would adhere to logic and guess that Ammon's avatar and the mental corruption left behind by the true creator had entered into conflict, eventually being destroyed and reduced to a dead worm. The surveillance on you would definitely decline significantly. If you act normally for an additional period of time, then the suspicion placed on you would be completely gone. Why does Mr. Hanged Man seem so well-versed in this aspect?" Audrey thought with her mouth slightly open. Derek's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he felt that Mr. Hanged Man was indeed trustworthy. He had come up with such a good idea. Then, how do I make that exploratory team member display the most thorough extent of his abnormality? He quickly asked. Alger fell silent for a few seconds before saying, "I don't know." He then added, "It would be great if there are items related to the true creator." With a whoosh, Audrey looked towards the fool who was seated at the end of the long bronze table.